Welcome to this episode of From Dirt We Grow. I appreciate everyone for being here. I'm your host, Stephanie Kendall, Stephanie Allen. Sorry, I recently got married and forgot my own name. Stephanie Allen. So today's episode is, I feel like it's about understanding how beliefs are formed in the first place regarding what we hear from media. Here today, I have Mr. Howard Polskin. He's going to tell us all about the writing. How are you? Thank you for being here.
I am good. Thank you so much. Since September 2017, coming up on 9 years, and it's a newsletter that monitors right wing media for mainstream and progressive audiences. So if you look at the newsletter, it's free and it's TheRighting with an Righting. And if you don't want to spend an hour watching Sean Hannity or something like that, but you want to know what right wing media is thinking, spend 2 minutes on the newsletter and you'll get a very tidy summation of what right wing media is thinking and saying. Most people, I think most people go to their media outlets that affirm what they're thinking. So, if you're liberal, you're going to, watch MS Now, Lawrence O'Donnell, you're going to read The Nation and Mother Jones or Slate or Salon or Rolling Stone. If you're a conservative or right wing, you're going to watch Fox News. You're going to read the National Review or Breitbart, Town Hall, and they will just merely affirm what you've been thinking. And I think that to be a healthy citizen, you really need to have a sprinkling of the other point of view. You don't have to go all in, but a little bit of the opposite thinking would go a long way to helping understand the other side of the aisle.
I wish we could have more conversations like that and to get more of an understanding amongst each other.
It's hard. I mean, Stephanie, it's hard. I mean, listen, I try and practice what I preach, but sometimes I feel, like the
I know
steam coming out of my ears. It can be very frustrating, and that's kind of the world we're living in now.
it's sad. I believe. I mean, this division is so deep that it's deeper than it's ever been. What's your background? Are you a journalist at heart, or
I've been in the media industry my whole life, both in terms of as a journalist, and I was in public relations as a senior public relations executive for CNN and Sony Corporation of America in the magazine industry. But in the last decade, I've gone back to my journalism roots. So I have a pretty good understanding of it. I'm on the board of advisors for Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Communications. One of my ideas was starting the Mirror Awards, which honors the best in reporting about the media. Been a judge on that award for 2 decades. So I'm pretty much immersed in all things media.
I'd say, how do narratives start, and how are people so misinformed?
Well, it starts a lot of it. Let's just take election results. You would think that what, dozens of courts have said is that the results of the election in 2020 were settled. But then you have a president of the United States from the bully pulpit saying repeatedly, endlessly, year after year, that the election was rigged. And following that, you have dozens of right wing media outlets and podcasters and YouTube channels echoing what the president is saying. So, there, right away, you can see where that split goes. And you're going to have two camps seeing those election results from entirely different points of view.
Who do we believe? What do we? How are we to know?
Well, and that's where Stephanie, that's where I lose it with some people because I was like, it's not like let's say abortion. So if you're on the right and conservative, you're probably strongly anti-abortion. I am not in that camp. However, I can intellectually and emotionally understand why someone would have that point of view. I may not agree with it, but I kind of get it. And even on the bigger split of, liberal versus conservative, the basic definition of conservative is someone who wants smaller government, not to pay as many taxes, a smaller social net. I may not agree with that, but again, I understand that. I also understand to some degree why citizens of the United States may wonder or scratch their head why all this money goes to, countries overseas or immigrants coming to our country. I get where they're coming from. And like I said, I may not agree with it. I understand it. But when you get to these big ticket items like rigged elections, that's a bridge too far. And it makes me angry and it makes me upset because it feels like a direct threat to our democracy.
I gotta know, do you see outrage and fear spreading faster than facts?
um, let's put it this way: there's certainly a lot of fear and outrage out there. I would say, though, I like to say about a lot of journalists I know on the right and pundits on the right, and some of them who I talk to, I often say to them, I disagree with a lot of what you say, but I would never want to debate you because they will throw a lot of so-called facts at, and I don't know if some of them are true or not. It's their perspective on it. So I'll give you a perfect example, like NATO, where Trump wants to, he's very dismissive of NATO. He thinks we pay too much money. We're getting a raw deal. Um, I think there's probably something underneath that, and if I got in debate with anyone on the right on it, they just might steamroll me with all the facts that they throw at me saying why NATO's a bad deal for the United States. So that's when I say like, yeah, like there's a lot of facts that can be thrown on from both sides of the table. And but that's also why I do what I do, because I think it pays to listen to the other side because there may
Mm.
be a kernel of truth in what's being said. After about a year and a half, I started putting a introduction on the top of the newsletter, a daily 300-word introduction. I would be like a my monologue to my subscribers about what I'm reading and my what I'm feeling about it. And when I thought something was bullshit, I would call bullshit because what I do is so unique and so very few people are looking at both sides as carefully as I am. That does give me some entitlement to put my opinion out there, and which is what I'm doing right now when I'm talking to you. And just before I did this podcast, I just put out a TikTok video and it flipped it over to Instagram and Threads, all about my disgust with Trump's green reflecting pool disaster with all the algae in it.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to follow you on TikTok because I as well am uh, on TikTok quite actually probably more than I should be lately, but
Yes, it is. It is a time suck, isn't it? It's like,
it is, it is. Are you under the writing then on there as
yes,
well?
yes, I
Okay.
am. Yep, yep.
Well, I'll have to find
And when
you.
I first started doing it, Stephanie, I
Mhm.
didn't know it, but I was inadvertently flipping. It was also being posted on Facebook at the same time on my personal account,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I got so much hate from certain friends.
Facebook
I
is the worst, isn't it?
Yeah,
For as
yeah,
far as, like, people that come at you in the
yeah.
comments, like, it's ridiculous.
People really came out at me, and I actually lost a good friend who said,
Yeah.
be more patriotic. It was pretty upsetting. Yeah.
I've lost a few too, and there are so many stories like that as and even family members that, are divided. We're where they want us to be, I believe, so
Yes.
now, how do we teach people to question all information without becoming cynical?
It's harder. It's Stephanie, it's harder and harder every day, especially, this year with the rise of AI. When you look at images now, and I know myself and just what I can create with Gemini, I'm constantly using Gemini to create images for my website and for my TikToks. And so now it's like we can't trust what we're seeing much
Yeah,
less the so-called facts that we're reading as well. So it's a the marketplace is kind of alarming. And where is this going to be 2 years from now? Who knows? You can certainly feel that. How are people going to trust election results in 2028 or even the midterms? Like, Trump is going to say the election was rigged if it doesn't come out his way.
absolutely. That's a given, I believe, at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
What has surprised you the most? Like, have you ever had anybody maybe on the right somehow get a hold of you to say, "Hey, your article opened my eyes or mind or it got me thinking."
No, that really
Darn it.
hasn't happened. Let's put it this way. There was a cousin I had. I was at a dinner last weekend, and a cousin of my wife's, who was very pro Trump. She did express extreme disappointment with Trump's war with Iran. I was surprised. That surprised me. Um, there's very little times that I get like, "Oh, you were right. You were so right." And a lot of times I feel like, um, calling up people I know on the right and saying like, "Are you cool with this?"
Yeah, are you still on board with yeah.
When the shooting, I did that once a few years ago with the awful shooting of the school, with those little kids in Uvalde, Texas, and the
Mhm.
cops wouldn't go in the school. And I called up someone I knew at a right wing website because I was so angry about it. And I was like, so much for how a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. And I just said, there's too many damn guns out there, and I hung
Yeah.
up. I was so upset over that. But most of the time I really try and control my emotions and rein it in, because I think it's important to have open lines of communications with people I know on the right. And I would say most of the time that served me well. There are people on the right I'm in touch with. I say to them, I'm very upfront, we're not going to agree on 90% of things, but let's have a beer. And they're like, yeah, great. And they've helped me on stories and given me
Mm.
email addresses for people in the Trump administration. And it's really good. Or I'll just call them up and say, can you explain it? Like, I don't understand, why is the Trump administration doing this? And they'll explain it to me.
Okay, kinda get some insight into the mind of the other side.
Yeah, one of the country's leading conservative organizations, the Heritage Foundation.
Mhm.
Every year they invite me to their Christmas party in New York, and every year I go.
Really?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh my, I is how is that? How does that go down?
I feel like a cat at a dog show.
An orange at an apple farm?
It's like I go, I have a drink, I speak to the person who invites me. I feel that I'm respected. It's very nice. It's like a typical Manhattan Christmas party. You go, you have a drink, you have a few hors d'oeuvres, you say goodnight, have a good holiday, and off you go.
Nothing fishy going on here, huh? Okay.
Exactly, exactly.
Is there something that surprises you on one side, like, or a common misconception on either side?
I think the worst that I saw in the 8 years I'm doing this is how a lot of information was reported on COVID and vaccines. That was highly disturbing to me. I don't think that the right really captured it the right way. They made it this big freedom issue, and I think because of that, people died. The masks, the getting the jab, the
Mhm.
severity in the beginning of the pandemic, that was most upsetting to me.
Like I said, it's mind-blowing that that something tragic happens like that, and then I swear, like, the next minute, it's like, "Okay, well, this happened too," and it's like, "Well, that's all completely forgotten about."
Yeah, the news cycle moves so fast these days.
Does it seem like it moves faster now than it used
Yes,
to, as
yes,
far as so much going on at once?
yes, absolutely. And part of it is Trump always has his foot on the accelerator. I mean,
Mhm.
in a way, I mean, anyone knows me knows, like, I am not a fan of Donald Trump, but his ability to keep his foot on the gas like this is incredible. Is his superpower. every day, like pushing more and more new things. It just kind of blows me away. Just even thinking like, why does he have to get involved with the reflecting pool? Why does he all of these initiatives to so-called spiff up the monuments in Washington, D.C.?
Mhm.
Doesn't he have enough on his plate?
You would think.
Yeah, but this is what he's relentless like this. He keeps coming at you, and it disrupts the news cycles, and we can never
Mhm.
catch our breath and never really fully digest the last outrage. It just keeps coming and coming and coming and never stops.
Yeah, that's part of the plan, I feel like, isn't it?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Stephanie. On Truth Social, I follow one person on Truth Social. It's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning, I can't believe there'll be like 22, tweets from, Donald Trump in the middle of the night. He's like a hyperactive teenager, up all night just tweeting. It's like, "What?"
Well, no wonder he sleeps all day long. I mean,
Exactly, yes.
I thought about downloading it just for that, just to see so I'm up on stuff before I hear about it later, but I would never keep up, and it'd just drive me crazy probably. Are media consumers typically stuck in echo chambers more on the right or on the left, or is it kind of even or
I It's hard to know.
yeah?
Part of me thinks a little bit more on the right, but I don't. It's kind of more anecdotal evidence rather than have hard figures on that. I know that, it feels a few years ago, it just felt that there were more right wing websites, right wing news websites. But now it feels like there's been a surge in more liberal and progressive
Mm.
substacks. Like that seems to be that's where I'm seeing a lot of stuff. That's part of the trouble as well, Stephanie. There's so many platforms and so many different avenues for people to get information that it's almost impossible to monitor.
There's too many different apps too, like platforms, like, like bringing up Substack, that's one I almost forgot about. I mean, there's so many that I haven't even heard of. People mention them sometimes, and I'm like, "You were on the what now?
Yeah.
Rainbow and like, what? What are these apps people are talking about, and how many are there? It's ridiculous."
That's right, that's right. I will start, beginning in July, I have someone on my staff, and we will be monitoring right-wing video on YouTube because that has become very popular.
How many people do you have? Are you the owner? Are you the
Yeah, I found it and stuff like that, and I've had various the people who work for me, they're part-timers or freelancers.
if you could make one change to improve political discourse in America, what would it be?
Oh my God, what would that be? Have Trump resign and we'll make him the country's chief marketing officer. Something that's more aligned with his skills and interests. He's good at slogans. He's very good. He's good at packaging information. I give him a lot of credit for that. But step down and, let the adults in the room take over, please.
Know your role, huh?
Yes, know your role, know your skills, know your limitations, and for God's sakes, Mr. Trump, get some sleep.
Yeah, at night. It seems that we can't even have a conversation as far as any political conversation for sure. Seems like we can't agree on anything, even if we are of like mind in our political ideologies. How do we learn to have conversations again without being enemies?
Well, I do think we can have discussions with the right on the war in Iran. I think that we're reaching that point right now, and I think it was reasonable. And a lot of what I'm reading from liberal columnists, we're not entirely opposed to the bombing of Iran in the end of February. Um, I just think there was a lot of disconnect that Trump didn't have this fully thought out, like most of what he does. But I think there's some common interests there: the left, the middle, the left, and the right. I think that's a start. But like I said earlier, when you get into topics like rigged elections, that's where there's never going to be agreement.
So TheRighting.com, yeah? How do you fund it? You said it's free.
Yes, I have donations. I had a grant. I had a major grant from the Ford Foundation. So I pay my bills and we get by just fine. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. So it can be done.
Yes, and I'm actually able to pay my web producer and it all work I pay my writers, so it all works out just fine.
So yeah, TheRighting.com. It's free, so go subscribe. And then also on TikTok, we can find you The Writing,
You can find me there or on Instagram. Yes.
Instagram. And then is YouTube coming or is that just what you're gonna be
It's
covering?
gonna be just when I'm not gonna be on YouTube. I'm just monitoring right-wing personalities on YouTube.
Gotcha. All right, so Instagram, TikTok, and of course the website, TheWriting.com. Thank you so much, Howard. Is there anything else we should know about?
I think you've covered all the bases. You were great.
Awesome. And you are great as well. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
You bet. Thank you for having me, Stephanie. It's a pleasure.
And everybody out there, thank you for being here. And please be sure to come back next week and share this episode so the word gets out and we can get more eyes and ears on Howard's work. Great work over there at the writing. And come back next week.